Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 6. Protagonist. Part 1. The subway stopped around halfway past Dongo Bridge. Oh my god. Several survivors stood up and looked at the scene taking place outside. The ruined Seoul and collapsed buildings. Monsters reminiscent of a giant snake were eating the wreckage of a fighter jet that had crashed into the Han River. What the hell? I recognized their identity at once. An ichthyosaur. A monster that was commonly called a sea serpent. It would later be classified as a grade 7 monster in the world of ways of survival. One of the ichthyosaurs looked in this direction. Yuyuwa. It is coming. People screamed with fright. But I just looked apathetically at the approaching ichthyosaur. These guys couldn't be a threat. Kurururung. The ichthyosaur circled around the bottom of Dongo Bridge and vanished into an air bubble. In the world of ways of survival, scenarios took precedence over anything else. As long as we were protected by the scenario, we wouldn't have to deal with such monsters straight away. At least for now. Compensation settlement is delayed due to an unexpected scenario check. Please wait. The compensation settlement should have started right now, but only an error message floated in the air. It was probably due to me. I looked down at Kim Namwon's body, which only had the torso remaining. According to the original ways of survival, Kim Namwon killed most of the people in this carriage and moved on to the next scenario. But I stopped it. If my thoughts were right, those who would be angry at Kim Namwon's death would appear. Here? Not here. They were in the sky above. Due to the death of character Kim Namwon, 2 constellations show a faint hostility to you. Constellations. They were mysterious beings in ways of survival. They sat watching from the distant nebulas and were the masterminds of this tragedy. Once the constellation's preferences sign appeared, I realized that it was now starting in earnest. It was funny. A day ago, our positions were opposite. Now they were the ones watching me. A handful of constellations admire your scenario. The constellations have sponsored you 500 coins. If there were some constellations who disliked me, there would also be some who liked me. Either way, it was an uncomfortable situation. However, I couldn't do anything about them right now. It was my turn to be a clown. I picked up Kim Namwon's Swiss knife on the ground and thought. Feel free to watch. You will end up paying the admission fee with your lives. Dr. SSI? Are you okay? I looked up and saw Yusanga's face. Her shoulders were sagging. Blood covered her white blouse, and there was a run in her stockings. There was no more of the Yusanga I knew. I held Yusanga's hand and said, I'm sorry. I couldn't save the grandmother. I looked down at the body of the grandmother, missing its head. I didn't know the name of the grandmother. In the future, many people would die in this manner. Yusanga looked at me with a complicated gaze. How is Dr. SSI so? Yes? It is nothing. Rather. Thank you. What do you mean? That, I belatedly thought back to the previous scene. I had thrown the net in Yusanga's direction. I knew what she was thinking. It was just a coincidence. It won't happen twice. Yusanga nodded silently. She didn't know the truth, but she was smart. She knew what I meant. Someone lived because of my choice, and someone else died. No matter who survived, I didn't deserve a thank you. Wow, amazing. The Dakibi appeared in the air. What on earth happened here? I was just watching the other carriages. There was a mixture of delight and surprise on the Dakibi's face. Twinkling stars floated over the Dakibi's head. I counted the number of stars. 1, 2, 3. 20, 21. 21 in total. He would be happy. For 21 people to be connected to my channel. Haha, isn't this quite good? Gosh, thank you for your sponsorship. Constellations. Haha, everyone. Did you properly show off your value? The number of stars meant the number of constellations connected to the channel. 21 wasn't a lot, but it was a strange number for a beginner Dakibi. The number of survivors is quite high. The fellow in the next carriage was a nutter as well. It seems that things are quite interesting today. The Dakibi manipulated something in the air. A moment later, a list of survivors came up. Survivors from the 3434 train to Bulgwang, carriage 3807, Kim Dokja, Lee Hyunsung, Yusenga, Han Myunggo, and Lee Gilyung. A total of 5 survivors. 5 people. More people than I thought survived. I looked at the faces of the survivors one by one. Lee Hyunsung had a good physique and excellent motor skills, so it was expected that he would survive. I even expected Yusenga to a certain extent. In addition, Lee Gilyung. If my guess was right, Lee Gilyung was the name of the boy standing next to me. The fluids from the crushed grasshopper was still on the boy's hands. It was the grasshopper I had squeezed. The boy was looking at his mother, who lost her head. The boy's mother had abandoned him to join in on killing the grandmother. The boy had just watched the whole thing from beginning to end. I hesitated for a moment before touching the boy's shoulder. It wasn't foolish sympathy. To put it simple, this was. That's right. Hypocrisy. Kid. The boy slowly turned his head, and in his eyes, I could see the fear of death that he encountered for the first time in his life. Unavoidable instincts. This boy wasn't grieving his mother's death. He was just afraid of his own death. It was natural. He was human. Do you want to live? The boy's eyes shook anxiously. His body trembled with a force that couldn't be resisted. Then little by little, the boy's head moved. Then let's go together. Lee Gilyung moved slowly and came close to my legs. Yusenga was watching me with an impressed expression. I unintentionally caused another misunderstanding. In fact, it was meant to be seen. But the target wasn't Yusenga. A few constellations are impressed with your good deed. The constellations have sponsored you 200 coins. I couldn't help thinking that it was a low move. But I also wanted to live. Given the upcoming major events, it was essential to draw the attention of the constellations right now. Will you release us now? Didn't you get what you wanted? Han Myunggo, in a torn shirt, shouted from half a dozen steps away. Department head Han Myunggo. He was a lucky human. But I couldn't help wondering. Why was Han Myunggo riding the subway when he had so much money? This was the man who had shown off a new S-Class Mercedes-Benz not long ago. HRMM, released? Haven't you seen outside? Do you really want to go out there? The Dakibi chuckled. It is somehow admirable. In fact, I didn't expect much from this carriage, but you managed to pass the first scenario. This proves that bugs deserve to survive. His words made us realize our position. Maybe we were like grasshoppers in his eyes. Now, shouldn't there be a reward for overcoming the hardships? As a reward for the first scenario, you are entitled to the sponsorship of the constellations. Wah! How about it? Aren't you looking forward to it? You are all unenthusiastic. This is really a big deal. The reaction was natural. I was the only one here who knew what constellation or sponsorship was. The sponsorship of the constellations. The meaning was obvious. One of the key events of Ways of Survival, sponsor selection, was about to begin. Everybody has confused expressions. I can easily tell you. Right now, you are incredibly weak. If you are thrown into the scenarios that will take place, you will be killed when you meet a weak ground rat, let alone a crook. But kindly, there are some great people in the universe who pity you and would like to sponsor you. Do you understand what I am saying? Lee Hyun-sung finally couldn't stand it anymore and opened his mouth. What are you saying? Who is sponsoring whom? My words are just entering dirty ears. Isn't there an old saying in South Korea? It is better to see it once than listen 100 times. So experience it directly. Well, the less fortunate ones might not get the chance. Ha ha ha. I was tense. From now on, a good choice here would make my survival in the future easier. Doc JSSI? Two strange choices suddenly appeared in front of me. I don't know even if you ask me. This was naturally a lie to avoid suspicions. By the way, there were two choices. Yusanga was quite lucky. Do it comfortably. Think of it as an aptitude test. Aptitude test. Nobody knows what the situation is anyway. Why not do it comfortably? Ah. I understand. Yusanga closed her mouth and started staring into space. It was a profound expression, as if she had encountered something curious. The others suddenly became silent. Everyone was reading the options in front of them. I also had my own choices to look at. Sponsor selection. Please select your sponsor. Your chosen sponsor will be your strong supporter. 1. Abyssal Black Flame Dragon. 2. Demon-like Judge of Fire. 3. Secretive Plotter. 4. Prisoner of the Golden Headband. There were 4 choices like a riddle. It meant there were 4 constellations that wanted to turn me into their incarnation. 4 choices wasn't small, considering that the protagonist of Ways of Survival received 5 options the first time. The constellations never revealed their true name. Therefore, all contractors must infer the identity of the constellations by words such as abyssal, demonic, and garden. Of course, this puzzle was nothing to me, the sole reader of Ways of Survival. Let's see. First, the Abyssal Black Flame Dragon. According to my memory, this constellation was a powerful entity that led the group of constellations called the Black Cloud. I forgot his real name, but I remember it was a very long name. The advantage of this constellation was that the contractor could receive a very strong attack power. In the early days when stamina and strength were in urgent need, there was no constellation as strong as the Abyssal Dark Flame Dragon. Of course, that was limited to the beginning. As the power of this constellation was more frequently used, the mind became corrupted and the contractor would become a mad murderer. This constellation usually sponsored the people with the Chiyuni attribute. I didn't know why the constellation picked me. I felt uncomfortable and excluded this guy. The second one, the demon-like Judge of Fire. I can't believe I was actually seeing this option. Somehow, the strong emotions I felt were enormous. At first glance, the name was overflowing with evil. But this was actually a trap for the wicked. The demon-like actually meant not a demon. Then the words fire and judge were added. A being who wasn't a demon and who made judgments through fire. Paradoxically, the master of this constellation was an angel. If I recalled corrected, it was Archangel Oriel. In fact, I remembered this because someone in the novel picked this constellation as a sponsor. It was a pretty decent choice. This was pending. The constellations of absolute good imposed ridiculous constraints if you wanted to use their enormous power. The third, Secretive Plotter. It was the first time that I, the sole reader of Ways of Survival, had seen this choice. This name might have been mentioned in passing, but I didn't know it right now. If I could read Ways of Survival more thoroughly, then I might get a feel of the constellation. But I was certain that the owner of this constellation wasn't a very strong entity. Apart from the obvious modifier, there wasn't one proper noun. Secretive Plotter, it was too simple for a constellation. This one was also pending. Finally, there was Prisoner of the Golden Headband. My heart jumped the moment I saw the fourth option. I didn't expect this constellation so early. I doubted my eyes several times. But it was unmistakably Prisoner of the Golden Headband. At first glance, this name gave off a negative image due to the word prisoner. But you had to pay attention to Golden Headband. Golden Headband. The smallest prison in the world. It was a hint that anyone would recognize if they enjoyed reading Journey to the West as a child. There was only one prisoner who was held captive by the Golden Headband in the journey from east to west. The master of the mountain of flowers and fruit, who lived in suffering due to the shackle on his head. The handsome monkey king with the golden gaze, fiery eyes. The great sage, the equal of heaven, Sun Wukong. Among the characters that appeared in the novel, there was one supported by Sun Wukong. A wondrous power that could sweep through hundreds of incarnations and to kill thoughts with one lightning strike. The author had described this part with a lot of energy, so my memory of it was clear. I didn't know why such a powerful constellation was showing me interest, but if I became the incarnation of the great sage, the equal of heaven, I would be able to survive in this new world more easily than anyone else. But I quickly looked at the door connected to the carriage in front. Beyond that door, he was looking at the selection screen like me. If I chose the great sage, the equal of heaven, could I win against him? There is 1 minute left to complete the sponsor selection. Time was running out. I breathed lightly and looked through my options. My worries didn't last long. Chapter 7. Protagonist. Part 2. Sponsor selection has ended. I took a deep breath as I watched the messages floating in the air. Some constellations are greatly affected by your choice. Yes, it was starting now. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is greatly displeased at your choice. The constellations belonging to Black Cloud are shaken by the anger of the Abyssal Black Flame Dragon. You won't be sponsored by any of the Black Cloud constellations for a while. I wasn't surprised, because it was an expected message. To make every member of his group turn away because he was rejected, it seemed that this guy was Kim Namwon's sponsor in the original work. As expected of the incarnation of this constellation. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is disappointed in you. She will persistently monitor your justice in the future. In the case of Archangel Oriel, it was just disappointment. In the first place, the constellations of absolute good would rarely hate someone unless they committed a great injustice. The constellation Secretive Plotter is interested in your choice. 200 coins have been sponsored. The Secretive Plotter's case was unexpected. Given the characteristics of the name, maybe he valued my caution. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is interested in your choice. And the great sage, the equal of heaven. I was concerned. Did I make the right choice? I didn't know. Maybe I had lost the tremendous opportunity right in front of me. You haven't selected a sponsor. But choosing a certain constellation meant being limited by that possibility. The sponsor contract was never a fair deal. I would survive. But I wouldn't survive by being their toys. And if my expectations were right, there was a way to become strong without a constellation. Maybe it was a way to become stronger than the incarnation of the strongest sponsor. Haha, is this true? Isn't there one interesting choice? Well, yes. There will be another chance. The Dakibi's crescent moon eyes stayed on me for a moment. Now, everyone has finished the selection. Rest here for a while. I have to go prepare the next scenario. I'll see you in 10 minutes. After the sponsor selection finished, the Dakibi disappeared. He told us to rest, but these 10 minutes were really crucial. In 10 minutes, I needed to sort out this situation and prepare for the following scenarios. I tried to recall my abilities in my head. character list, and omniscient reader's viewpoint. I didn't know the precise use yet, but I had a general sense of these skills. This will work somehow. Let's all gather together. The survivors gathered at my words. The first one to reach out a hand was Lee Hyun-sung. Hello, I am Lee Hyun-sung. Kim Dokja. Nice to meet you, although I don't know if these words suit the situation. As I said earlier, I am a soldier. Well, I should say that I was a soldier. You can't contact your unit? Yes. The grip around my hand was considerable. As expected from the tanker that appeared in the early stages of Ways of Survival. I must take Lee Hyun-sung with me. He might not look like much now, but Lee Hyun-sung was an increasingly important figure in the latter parts of Ways of Survival. Ah, Dr. SSI. Yes? I wanted to thank you. If it wasn't for Dr. SSI, we would all be dead. No, that isn't the case. Even if I had lived, I would have been able to live as a person. Thank you very much. And I am ashamed. Lee Hyun-sung bowed deeply. My mind was a bit complicated. In fact, Lee Hyun-sung would have survived even if I didn't do anything. Then somebody grabbed my shoulder. Haha, our contractor did one big thing. Dr. SSI, do you know my name? I could tell who it was without looking back. I took the hand off my shoulder and said, I know, Han Myungo SSI. Huh, Han Myungo SSI? Shouldn't you call me department head? Han Myungo was still trying to use his position in this situation. He really was the king of authoritarianism in Microsoft. This isn't the company. Ha, look at this. Are you planning to not go work now? Where did you learn your basic etiquette? Once I saw Han Myungo's angry face, I once again realized that the world I knew was over. The man in front of me was a predator of the world before the scenario began. And I was merely a prey to the predator. It was certainly like that. No matter how I think about it, your actions were too much. Yes? If you had the insects, then you should have tipped me off. Why would you throw them like that? Dr. SSI, you have to be good to me. How much time do you have left on your contract? All of a sudden, it became ridiculous. In the world I had lived in, I was too weak. Han Myungo SSI. Eh? Shut up. What? You still don't understand the situation? Weren't you hit by that bastard earlier? Microsoft? Do you think the company still exists when the end has come? Han Myungo's face was white and stricken. I turned my eyes towards the other people. Since I was already saying it, I should make it stick. Han Myungo SSI isn't the only problem. Everyone, you need to wake up. As the Dakibi said, this isn't a joke. I think you should have all roughly noticed the situation. Exclusive skills in the attributes window. A game-like interface. Is there anyone who still hasn't caught on to facts? Indeed, no one raised their hand. South Korea was easy. Due to the high penetration rate of smartphones, there wasn't one person who hadn't played a RPG game. Even if they didn't play a game, they would have read a fantasy novel at least once. Lee Hyun-sung sighed. This is like a novel I was reading while standing on duty, but I still can't feel it. This really isn't a dream? This is reality. My stern answer caused Lee Hyun-sung's eyes to slightly change. The character, Lee Hyun-sung, feels a faint trust in you. Your understanding of the character, Lee Hyun-sung, has increased. Lee Hyun-sung nodded. It is good that you are certain. Then what do we do now? Dr. SSI, do you have an opinion? We have to go. I answered without hesitation. Jigo? Are you insane? Dr. SSI, I don't think. This time, Yusenga joined it. It seemed everyone still hadn't woken up. Then how long we will stay here? In fact, my argument didn't make much sense. Outside was a heaven of monsters. But I knew. Right now, we have to get out of here. Have you thought about your parents? Do you think your parents are safe in this mess? The line has been dead for some time. No kako talk, Yusenga cried out desperately. Indeed, Confucianism was still strong in South Korea. Even Lee Hyun-sung and Han Myung-go's expressions darkened at the word parents. I grasped Lee Gil-young's shoulder, whose head was bowed. The first person to get up was Yusenga. Go. I will go out. And no. Didn't you hear what that thing said? Take a break here. If we move, then our heads might explode. Let's take a majority vote. Yusenga raised her hand first, followed by me and Lee Gil-young. But it was up to there. I have to go to my base, but it seems dangerous to move in this situation. There was also the warning. Shit, you all go by yourselves. I'm not going. I'm not going outside. I didn't care about Han Myung-go, but the problem was Lee Hyun-sung. I had to take Lee Hyun-sung with me no matter what. Kwang. The thick iron plate made a loud sound. The iron door to carriage 3707 was slightly distorted. What? Han Myung-go's cry was ignored as the iron door made a deafening sound again. Kwang. Someone was trying to break the door from beyond it. This was an unexpected situation, so I had to think. Was it the next scenario? No. The Dakibi hadn't come back yet. Then, my brain moved quickly. Small hairs stood up and a short shiver struck my body. That guy. What? Everybody stop it. Han Myung-go shouted and moved towards the door. Lee Hyun-sung moved towards it as well, but I stopped him. You can't stop it. Huh? We have to go. I looked at the iron door with heavy eyes. Huh? But if we don't go now. The only survivor of carriage 3707. I was well aware of who was beyond the iron door. We will all die before the next scenario arrives. Yes, that guy was finally coming. The real protagonist of this story. Chapter 8. Protagonist. Part 3. I stared straight into Lee Hyun-sung and Han Myung-go's eyes and said, do you want to die from that guy beyond the iron door, or do you want to try your luck outside the train? Which one will you choose? Doc SSI, is there any guarantee that the person beyond the iron door is an enemy? The steel sword appeared at the crucial moment. There was a reason why Lee Hyun-sung couldn't be leader of a party. Since they are coming from another carriage, it is likely to be a survivor. If we meet. I looked at the bloody room instead of continuing. Lee Hyun-sung followed my gaze and quietly spoke. I was too careless. Let's find a way out. Go. Go quickly. At this moment, both people were aware. The other survivors of the carriages would have gone through the same thing as them. They wouldn't have the good luck of finding insects. This is broken. Damn, we can't go this way. While listening to Lee Hyun-sung and Han Myung-go's cries, I also checked the doors. There were no more barriers, so the doors could now be touched. Apart from the doors connecting the passageways, there were a total of 8 access doors on the subway. There were 3 exits that hadn't been confirmed yet. Kung. The iron door seemed like it could barely hold on for 1 minute. Despite being the main character, I didn't think he would have such high strength in the beginning. I was honestly surprised that he could break such a thick iron door. Doc SSI. Here. I found a working manual switchgear. No. The opening and closing device worked smoothly, but the door didn't open at once. The door opened around 1/5, before stopping like it was jammed. It seems to be broken here as well. How about other places? This seems to be the only place where we can escape. It was unknown for a child. But the gap was too narrow for men and women to escape. Han Myungo and Lee Hyunsung tried to pull the doors open, but they didn't move a bit. Coins possessed, 4,700 C. One of the uses of the coins was to raise overall stats. I had already used 2,700 coins to make my stamina level 10. This problem could be resolved if I used the remaining coins to enhance my strength. But it wasn't wise to use the coins when the situation was unknown. In the end, there was only one way. Lee Hyunsung SSI. Use a skill. Huh? Skill. I quietly activated character list. The exclusive skill, character list is activated. Character information. Name, Lee Hyunsung. Age, 28 years old. Constellation sponsor, Master of Steel. Private attribute, soldier who turned a blind eye to injustice. General, exclusive skills, bayonet skills LV2, camouflage LV2, patience LV2. Stigma, Great Mountain Push LV1. Overall stats, stamina LV8, strength LV8, agility LV7, magic power LV5. Overall evaluation, the overall stats are very good. Despite turning away from injustice, he received the choice of a constellation. This is another opportunity for him. Lee Hyunsung's information came to my mind without any restrictions. Fortunately, the sponsor was the same as what I read in Ways of Survival. You should have checked it when you opened the attributes window. Lee Hyunsung is a soldier, so there must be a skill you can use in this situation. Well, I have one, but how do I use it? Just think about using the skill. Will that work? It will. I did it earlier. Lee Hyunsung didn't say anything else as he took a deep breath of determination. Hop. Lee Hyunsung's biceps swelled as he grabbed the door. It was the appearance of Great Mountain Push. In fact, Great Mountain Push wasn't a skill, but a stigma. And a stigma was a power from the constellation. I used the word skill in order to avoid suspicions. Do. There was a sound like a huge spring turning and the door started to move. What? This guy has real strength. That's it. It is really great. The character Lee Hyunsung has started to trust you. Your understanding of the character Lee Hyunsung has increased. Rather than doubts, my reliability had risen. Lee Hyunsung was a simpler person than I thought. Come on, get off. But I felt relieved. I handed Lee Gilyung to Lee Hyunsung. Lee Hyunsung SSI. Carry the child on your back. I understand. Now the iron door was almost broken. But if my prediction was right, the problem right now wasn't that iron door. This is really... I knew this would happen. Didn't I saw it earlier? I told you not to go anywhere, damn. The scenario isn't ready yet, dash. The Dakibi seemed to be angry as it floated over Dongo Bridge. Wah. I knew this would happen. I told you not to come out. Han Myungo wrapped a hand around his head like he thought it would explode. But there was no need to worry. Sigh, it can't be helped. You are really lucky humans. It was because the second scenario started the moment the train door was opened. The second scenario has arrived. Plus. Second scenario, escape, category, sub. Difficulty, E. Clear conditions, cross the broken bridge and enter Oksu Station. Time limit, 20 minutes. Compensation, 200 coins. Failure? Plus. Dokja Sasai, something is strange. It says the broken bridge, but the bridge is still, don't worry and just run. Quickly. You understood. In fact, Yusanga was right. The bridge hadn't been broken yet. In other words, the bridge was going to be broken. Doc Jessai, come quickly. I'm coming. It hadn't been broken yet because we got off the train too soon. The Dakibi said the preparation time was 10 minutes. But we escaped 3 minutes earlier. Some people might call it cowardly, but this scenario couldn't be cleared without such a shortcut. Especially if I was stuck with burdens such as Yu Senga and Li Gilyang. Pant, pant. Indeed, Li Hyansung SSI is a soldier and has high stamina. Don't open your mouth. You will lose strength. Li Hyansung was running first, with the kid. He was a natural monster who didn't invest any coins in his stats, yet the sum of his strength, stamina, and agility exceeded 23. The next one was Han Myungo, and then Yu Senga with me in the rear. It would be close, but I thought we could make it in time. Ah, what is that? At this time, Han Myungo's scream was heard. There was a huge whirlpool in the center of Han River, letting out splashes of water. And a giant monster was at the center of the splashes. An ichthyosaur. The problem was that the ichthyosaur seemed to be twice the size of the one I saw through the window. This wasn't a sea serpent, it was a sea commander. A general sea serpent was only a grade 7 monster. Given that a grade 9 monster's land rate was difficult for normal humans to cope with, an average human would be torn apart by a grade 7 monster. In other words, the guy coming now wasn't a monster that could be caught in the early stages. Of course, there was no need to catch it. It wasn't created to be caught. Coo 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 coo. The Han River surged like there was a tsunami, and the ichthyosaur moved. It was chewing on the legs of the bridge. The bridge is breaking. Run. If we run, then we can cross it. The remaining distance was around 200 meters. If my calculations were correct, we could cross before the bridge collapsed at our current speed. There is no fun if the game is too easy. Of course, this was a story for when there were no variables. The scenario difficulty has been adjusted. Scenario difficulty, E-D. The sound of the Dakibi's laughter was heard. Is there any fun if you just run away? Let's create a bit of atmosphere. The evil thoughts of the dead have returned. The surrounding earth is filled with black ether. The demonic people have woken up. There was the sound of something chasing us from behind. Yu Senga muttered to herself. Z-zombies? Zombie-like bodies were coming in huge waves. Some of them were people from the same carriage as us. We just need to go a little further. Quickly. The distance to the ichthyosaur was now less than 100 meters. Fortunately, Li Hyansung carried Li Gilyang and had crossed the safety line. The problem was the rest of us, including me. Han Myungo shrieked. Why, you bastards? There were too many demonic people. If there were only corpses from the subway, we might have gotten away. The problem was Kuiyu. The drivers who died on the bridge became demonic people. The path that Li Hyansung broke through was covered with demonic people. I looked between the demonic people on the road and the approaching ichthyosaur. Everybody get down. It was too late. Huang. The legs of the bridge shook tremendously as the ichthyosaur's huge mouth bit it. The scales of the ichthyosaur shone through the dust that poured down onto Han River like rain. A fishy smell of blood and water filled the area. I staggered and raised my body. Once the dust went away, the scenery around me was clear. Piles of shattered concrete and cut steel. The carcasses of the demonic people which the ichthyosaur had cleanly bitten through. The broken leg of the bridge. Doke, SIA, Yu Senga and Han Myungo raised their bodies from a little further away. One of Han Myungo's legs seemed injured and uncomfortable from the previous quake. Li Hyansung and Li Gilyang cried out from across the bridge, but their voices seemed blocked by the safety zone. What should I do? I made plans on the basis of the bridge breaking. But I hadn't expected Han Myungo and Yusenga to be with me. At that moment, a voice was heard in the air. Someone has received the favor of a constellation. The constellation scenario Deus Ex Machina has been activated. Along with the voice, a brilliant bridge made of light was created among the remnants of the broken Dongo Bridge. Then a message floated in front of me. Plus. Deus Ex Machina, even bridge. Description: a bridge of light made by a constellation. Only an even number of people can cross the bridge. The bridge will disappear as soon as an odd number of people tries to cross it. Plus. Dokjessi. This, in my head, suddenly. I met the eyes of Yusenga, who was talking nonsense. I could roughly guess the situation. Deus Ex Machina. Constellations risked a huge loss by intervening in scenarios. It is Yusenga SSI's sponsor. I didn't know what constellation it was, but somebody had chosen Yusenga as their incarnation and wanted her to live. Deus Ex Machine was a rare phenomenon in ways of survival. And Yusenga was a person who should have already died. I had a moment of doubt. What type of constellation was behind Yusenga? The information of this person can't be read in character list. This person isn't registered in character list. I was a bit surprised. I couldn't see her with my skill? Why? Did she have a special background? Or did she have a mental barrier? But if she hid something like that from the beginning, no, wait a minute. Perhaps this was. Dokjessi, what do we do now? I heard Yusenga's bewildered voice. I didn't have much time to think. Coo. The Han River was swirling. The ichthyosaur had eaten one bridge leg and was turning its huge body around on the other side of Han River. I bit my lips and once again read the explanation of the bridge. Only an even number of people could cross the bridge. In the end, Deus Ex Machina was a toy made by the damn constellations who loved tragedies. There was no way for everyone to survive. Han Myungo's body was shaking as his eyes met mine. In the end, somebody must die.